everyone, my name is Roger Brown and I'm the Chief Executive of Credit Matters. I'm also an attorney, and we're going to discuss today the whole issue of interest rates. I mean, I'm sure that most of you are really battling with interest rates. So what are interest rates? Interest rates are the amount of money that the bank charges people every month to take money from them. So banks are basically in the industry of putting money out there. And once they put the money out there, they want you to pay more and more. They want you to pay a monthly installment to them every month to either pay the money back or to pay the interest on the interest that you've taken out. So normally we have interest that is payable on the two big ones, I guess, are the bonds for the house and the cars. Those are the ones that are quite big. And then, of course, there's also the ones to do with personal credit cards and maybe emergency loans, etc., or whatever. Morning, Van Heerden, I see you've joined us. Have you got any questions for me this morning? Just in case you missed, I'm Roger Brown from debt counselling company Credit Matters, and I'm also an attorney. So feel free to ask me some questions and maybe I can help you out, but we're discussing interest rates at the moment. Are you, we're all battling with interest rates. I can't ask you that question because I'm sure the answer is all of us are. Anyway, so to get back, interest rates, so why do they go up? They go up because, unfortunately, the Reserve Bank will lend money to the banks, and when the Reserve Bank lends money to the banks and puts up the amount of money that they're charging the banks, then I guess the banks have got to get their money back some other way. Hi, Ulysses. I see you've joined. I see Reddy Bones also joined. Feel free to ask me some questions about interest rates. I'm a debt counsellor and an attorney, and I think that at the moment we're just looking at this incredible financial pressure everyone's under as a result of the repo rate going up and bonds going up. Hello, Apo. Hello, Kalejo. Hello, Nikki. I can see you've also joined, Nikki Matthews. So we're discussing, yes, interest rates. So are you guys battling out there? If you are battling out there, maybe give me a thumbs up or say yes. Caesar Boy, I see you've also joined us. Are there any questions about how to get out of debt regarding interest rates? Because, or are we just all going to just pay forever and see what happens? Because unfortunately, interest rates tend to just go up further and further and further. And people who've got bonds right now and people who've got cars are finding it extremely difficult to pay every month. Anyway, so as I was saying, interest rates are charged by the banks and will increase over periods of time when the Reserve Bank decides that they need to implement what they call monetary policy or monetary policy tightening. So monetary policy tightening is generally when you increase interest rates, and the thoughts are that if you increase interest rates, people are less inclined to spend money on investments, they're less inclined to take consumer loans, and if there are less consumer loans and less investments and less expenditure, then hopefully you can keep inflation under control. The government also does it because of, I guess, the exchange rates as well. They put up interest rates to protect the rand, but I don't know about that because it seems like we tend to shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to the rand from time to time. We're not that great at actually making sure the rand doesn't depreciate against a basket of currencies. Colleen, I see you've joined us. James, welcome. Anyone wants to ask me any questions, feel free to do so. And as I say, we're dealing with debt and interest rates at the moment. I am an attorney and also Chief Executive of Credit Matters, a debt counselling company situated in Cape Town. So we help people get out of debt, and we put payment plans in place so that you pay less to the bank every month on interest. If anyone wants to contact us, it's 021 202 1100. That's the debt counselling company. And to speak about getting out of the attorney's questions, it's 021 202 1100. Anyway, welcome everyone. Anyone got any questions on what the heck we do about these interest rates at the moment and how we can pay less? So certainly my thoughts on interest rates are, first of all, if you are going to get into debt, realize that they do go up. They do come down sometimes as well, but generally expect the interest rates to go up. So it doesn't make sense for you to get overextended, put yourself in a position where you assume that interest rates are not going to go up. So if you've got disposable income and you can afford finance, don't go max out that, because clearly the interest rates, especially in a time like this, are going up and will continue probably to go up for a period of time. So when it comes to interest rates, I think what one's got to understand is that it is an expense you're going to have to pay. It's very seldom that the banks are going to actually be able to say, well, you know, you owe us interest every month, but guess what? We like you, we're not going to make you pay for it. So unless you're under debt counselling, which then will put a payment plan in place for you to pay less every month, there's very little you can do about interest rates that are going up. So with debt counselling, what happens is a matter will go to court. I've got to swipe right. Oh, hang on. Sorry about this. I'm just getting used to being on TikTok. This is my first time on a live. If you're enjoying it, please just invite your friends and ask some questions or whatever. So when it comes to interest, yes, you will be expected to pay it. The only way that you can actually not pay it would be to phone your bank and say, excuse me, Mr. Bank, I'm sure you don't need my money this month, maybe next month. But my experience is if a person from the street does that and speaks to their bank manager, you're going to get a rather unsympathetic voice on the other line saying, but why did you sign a contract? And why did you agree to pay this amount of money when you couldn't afford it? So the way to do it is if you go into debt counselling, you then get attorneys to phone them. You get your debt counsellor, I'm an attorney and a debt counsellor, to phone them. And then once they will contact them, and the debt counsellor will put together a payment plan so that you pay less every month. It sounds quite wonderful, but that's how it works. So debt counselling was basically came about in 2007. My company Credit Matters started in 2007, and we are registered debt counsellors. And what we can do is we can use the four frills of the National Credit Act to go about restructuring the amount of money that you pay every month. So it's a bit of a win for people who are over indebted and not able to pay their debts. So if you do contact your why don't you try it? I mean, it's worth a go. Phone your bank, go through the call center and say you're battling to pay your debt at the moment, your interest at the moment, and just see what they have to say. Maybe they'll say to you, look, why can't we come to some sort of arrangement? I know some of the credit providers have gone out of their way to figure out how to accommodate people who are over indebted. But if you don't want the headache of doing it yourself, then I do suggest that you speak to a debt counsellor, and a debt counsellor will then put together a payment plan so that you pay the credit providers like banks the interest and all the other expenditure or the other obligations over a period of time. And they'll get a court order as well, so that the credit providers can't come knocking on your door and harassing you like they tend to do if you haven't spoken to them or gone through the legal process. So is anyone enjoying it higher interest rates? Probably not. I think we're all taking a bit of strain on it. And I think that there's been a lot of people who got into more debt when it came to the pandemic. So during that period of time, they might have had a little bit of extra disposable income. They could put together a motivation to get extra credit. And once they got the extra credit, they assumed that interest rates would stay the same. But now, of course, interest rates have gone through the roof, and they'll continue to go through the roof. And what worries that, where does this end? Is this just what we're going to have to expect? And I did study economics at Wits a couple of years ago, so I know a little bit of my way around it, although I'm not an economist. But I think that certainly what we're looking at is we're probably looking at a situation of prolonged interest rates at higher levels. I think everyone understands that we went through 10 years of happiness with interest rates, basically as a result of the financial crisis in 2007 or thereabouts. When the financial crisis came, it seems like all the banks in the world decided that they should drop interest rates to encourage people to lend, keep the economy going. And now all of a sudden we're going through the tightening structure. I guess people know about quantitative easing, and now we know about quantitative tightening. So quantitative easing was that over periods of time, the governments of the world were pouring more and more money into the system to say, guys, have a lot of fun, spend some money, keep us going, create jobs, create investments. But at the end of the day, once you've done all that, you've got to pay it back. So as a debt counsellor, I often use this as an example. It's rather like you go to a town or you go to university and you party all week and you party all the weekend, and you wake up on the Monday morning and you're like, should I go back to a job or should we party a little bit more? And if your bank is prepared to give you some more money, then you say, well, why should I actually do anything else but just carry on partying? So people then take the money that they have and they keep on spending it, and then as long as the banks are providing them with more and more money, what inevitably happens is that the party can continue, party on, but at some stage, I guess we all realize that life's not like that, and that we need to actually go ahead and start paying back the money that we owe. I see that Stargirl's joined us. I see that Frenchie's joined, some Piwa's joined. If anyone likes to ask me a question, feel free to do so. We're dealing with interest rates and what we can do about getting out of debt, bearing in mind that it is difficult out there. People are battling to pay for their bonds, they're battling to pay for education, they're battling to pay for transport and even for electricity. That's gone up terribly over the last period of time. So in debt counselling, what we do is we will put a payment plan in place so that you pay less each month to your credit providers. And this will give you the ability then to have more money in your pocket. Not a lot, because you are under obligation to pay your debts, but it just gives you a bit of a breather so that maybe you aren't paying as much to your credit providers each month. And so I would suggest that if you are interested in going debt review, find yourself a decent debt counsellor. There are decent debt counsellors out there. Look at who they are and how long they've been in the business for. Credit Matters has been around since 2007, and we've helped a lot of South Africans get out of debt. And it's one of the big joys of the job. I remember I was doing a TV interview a couple of years back, and after I'd exposed myself as the chief executive of Credit Matters, a lady came down after the show, and she'd been up in the sound room. She came up to the show and she said, "Are you working at Credit Matters?" I said, and I thought, oh hell, she's now going to tell me the terrible work we did or how badly we messed it up. And she looked at me and she just said, thank you. She said, you guys really helped. And I think it was one of the joys of life when you actually realize that not only are you providing a service, that people actually are able to sort out their financial worries through debt counselling, and that you have made a difference in people's lives. And as I say to my staff every day, that the reason why we're in this industry is to make a difference, is to help people get out of debt. The government has given people the ability to go under debt review so that they can get out of their contractual obligations or alter their contractual obligations and be given a bit of an opportunity. And we're firm supporters in allowing people to go under debt review, get a court order, pay less each month, and then become debt-free. So although the interest rates are going up all the time, I think you need to have a payment plan in place. You need to have a plan that says, I can make this thing work. And as a debt counsellor, I know what it's like. We basically go through a process of, first of all, trying to understand who this person is or who our prospective client is. We look at their financial positions, we look at their budgets, we look at their credit agreements, and then we try our utmost to play with what we've got in terms of the Act to reduce the installments so that a person can actually survive. And debt counselling is difficult. I can't say it's not. I know a lot of people who are under debt review who battle. But once they get out of it, they get a piece of paper called a clearance certificate. And the clearance certificate basically will allow them to go out there and get themselves into a position where they can take new credit agreements. And that's quite a nice situation to be. We believe in debt. I think debt's a good thing. I don't think it's the worst thing that's ever happened. People need to get into debt. I think it's just a question of whether you can or can't afford it. So I certainly encourage people that are who are battling at this time to make things work, for them to to make it work, to actually consider going on a debt review. And Credit Matters will give you a free assessment without any obligation, so you can actually see what your financial position is, and then we look at it and see whether we can make it work. And then you can decide whether you want to do it or not. I mean, there are people who will look at debt review and say, it's not for me, and we accept that. But for those people who want options and want to see whether they can pay less interest every month on their credit agreements, then speak to a debt counsellor. Ask them, first of all, find out who they are and whether they are actually good at their job. They're professionals. They should have the accreditation by the national credit regulators. They should know what they're doing. And at the end of the day, they should be able to provide you with a service that would, in fact, help you get out of debt. It shouldn't. Debt counselling should never put you further into debt. It should actually be a situation where you will find yourself more able to get out, or to live. So there are interest rates will probably continue to go up for a couple more cycles. We're all hoping and praying that the Americans will sort out their debt ceiling problem that they've got at the moment, because the whole world's taking a bit of a they're taking a big gasp and breath to see whether they will get that right. Because unfortunately, when America has debt problems, they get a cold, we all tend to sneeze at the side of the equator. So even if the Americans do sort out their debt ceiling, which I think they probably will, it looks like everyone wants it to happen, we're still looking at the government saying to us, do we need to put our foot on the accelerator or on the brakes when it comes to economic growth and opportunity? And I think what they're not worrying about an overheating economy, they're worrying about a depreciating rand, they're worrying about things like current accounts and capital goods, exports, imports, these type of things, which probably keeps them in a situation where they need to figure out whether they've got to follow the international trend of interest rates up. I know that our friend in Turkey, I think Erdogan, decided he was going to go the other way, and he basically started reducing interest rates in the face of inflation. And just like bad policy does all over the world, if you do that, you find that inflation just becomes rampant. And I think we all know that we'd rather have to pay a little bit more every month on the inflation side, on the interest rate side, than to have inflation of 30-40%. So when it comes to interest rates, I think one of the big problems people are facing at the moment is that salaries are not going up. It would be so much better if we were in an environment where, if interest rates go up, our salaries go up. So we're very aware as debt counsellors that people have got less and less money, trying to make it go further and further. But sit down with a debt counsellor and they can perhaps give you some sort of understanding on what your financial position is at the moment and whether there is a possibility that debt review could be the answer. By reducing the amount of money you pay your creditors every day, it could be a solution that could help you get out of debt. So as the Chief Executive of debt counselling company Credit Matters, every day I sign what they call clearance certificates, which are documents. I wonder if I've got any on my desk at the moment. No, I signed off the last batch. But they are they are the documents that prove that a person has successfully gone through debt review and is successfully no longer over indebted and is able to continue out there as a responsible person for purposes of applying for future credit. So the interest rates are going to probably go up further, or they could actually just stagnate at the current levels. But either way, if they do go up or they come down, if they do go up or they remain stagnant at the current levels, people are taking extreme financial hardship as a result of it. So if you are in a position where you can't pay your your bond every month. Don't let them come and take your house. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do. Speak to a debt counsellor immediately and see whether they can't get the banks off your back so that you could be in a situation where your bond amounts are reduced every month. Anyway, I think that so the interest rates will go up over periods of time, and unfortunately, it's out of our control. I think this is a little bit like COVID. We are victims of the society and the forces that we find ourselves exposed to every day. So I think that interest rates going up are definitely something we can't control, but we can control how we respond to it. We can either put our heads in the sand and just assume that your interest rates are going to go up, but we are just going to not pay our debts and lose all our assets, or we could look at debt counselling as a possibility. So the debt counsellor will look at your financial position that you're in, they'll look at your credit agreements, and they will then try and figure out whether it's possible for you to pay less every month. Now, debt counselling is not for everyone. We know that there are people who are not able to pay their debts and are unemployed. And unless you've got a source of income, it's not possible for us to contact your credit providers and to discuss interest and all the rest. And unfortunately, you're not really going to be a candidate for debt counselling. If you do have sources of income that are otherwise, you might, for instance, have investments that you can liquidate, or you might be married and there's joint responsibilities for debt. This could certainly set you into a position where you could be a candidate for debt counselling. So contact a debt counsellor, look at your financial position, and then once they've done that, they can look at your budget and say, okay, this is where we can cut down on your budget, and this is where we can cut down on the amount of money you pay every month to your credit providers. Welcome, YDF. I see you've joined us. And also, interest rates generally will continue to increase. And one of the nice things about going under debt review at the moment is that if interest rates continue to go up and we go to the court and we get an order that you pay a certain amount, then you have a novation of your original credit agreement, which means that potentially the banks can't increase your interest rates going further. So you'll be in an environment where you will know how much you have to pay over the period of the bond or period of the debt review until you get out of debt review. And that's a huge advantage for people. So I would certainly speak to a debt counsellor. It'll cost you nothing. They don't charge you generally for the first consultation. In fact, they don't even charge you when you go under debt review, in that we're not going to ask you for X amount of rands to cover the debt review process. What they do is they amortize it into the amount of money you're going to pay your credit providers, and they take their money, although they take it out quite early on in the process, in the first months. At least you're not going to have to find cash in order to pay your debt counsellor. And on that point, I also think you should be aware that there's a lot of frauds out there. The people who say that we'll give us your money and we'll reduce your interest rates, or give us some money and we'll mediate, or whatever. There's lots of people who can take your money, but can they really get you out of debt? So this is, getting out of debt and promising you the world because you're going to mediate. I'm not that convinced that they are able to really help. So debt counselling is a process which is not legitimate but formalised by Act of Parliament. And as such, the debt counsellors are a breed of persons, I can say that, but they are fit and proper to do their job, which is a good thing. And as such, if they are fit and proper to do their jobs, you probably can expect them, they are also going to be regulated by the debt counsel, the national credit regulators, who are going to make sure that they are not going to steal your money and run away. So that is one of the advantages of going on a debt review, is that some person can go onto Twitter or they can go onto Facebook and promise that they can sort you out, and they can just scam you out of all your cash. So rather speak to a professional and feel comfortable with the process. I'm not saying you should just go to the first debt counsellor that you find out there, but what YDF, I'm glad that you've joined us. Sure, that's the first time I've been able to read off the phone and realize how this thing works. So if someone posts a comment, I can actually read it. Oh, that's great. So as I was saying is that, your debt counsellors are going to be regulated by the national credit regulators. And as such, there's a level of professionalism there that you can expect and you can rely upon. And if you're not happy with your debt counsellor, they basically are useless at their jobs, then certainly take it up with the national credit regulators. Your debt counsellor will not necessarily always tell you what you want to hear. A lot of people are disappointed with debt counselling, and it's because it's a hard process. There's no doubt about it. You're committing yourself to a process which is regulated. It's a straitjacket. And although it will get you out of debt, it's also hard. So we appreciate that. But often when people are angry with the process, they're angry with their debt counsellor. And the two, unfortunately, are poles apart. We are just doing our job. And often what will happen is, we have to find the middle ground between the needs of the credit provider and the needs of the over-indebted individual. So the process of debt counselling is to take the National Credit Act, have a look what it says, see what we can do and put a proposal together. That's basically what debt counselling does for over-indebted individuals. So it's not always pretty. It's not always a win-win for everyone. But what it is like every negotiation, at the end of the process, people should be happy with what's going on and they should be committed. And it is a real joy as a debt counsellor to come across people who say, I have, in fact, been under debt review and it got me out of debt, and I'm thankful that you guys really helped. I think that's really part of this, what we all want to see, is that people are not only going on a debt review, but that they're having the process, although it might be rigorous and difficult at times, by the time they get out of it, they feel that it was worthwhile. And why it is worthwhile is because we can stop those harassing phone calls. How that works is not magic. We don't, unplug your phone. But what we're doing is, because we're bringing a formal proposal to the credit providers, they can see what exactly is going on and they can agree to it. And once they've agreed to the process, and they agree to the amounts, and they agree to the timetable, and they agree to interest and installments and all the rest, then you have a buy-in. And you have a buy-in both from a debt counselor's point of view, as well as a buy-in from the credit provider's point of view, and of course the over-indebted individual. And that then, because that happens, there's a level of relief. People are a lot more at calmer. Your credit providers will be calmer because they know what's going on. Your debt counsellor certainly will be calmer because they're facilitating the process. And if people are paying every month and the credit providers are happy and the court orders are being granted, then we very much feel like we are on the right track to getting people out of debt. So it's a good idea to consider debt counselling. I think that debt counselling is high up on the list of priorities for people who are over indebted. I think what we've seen over periods of time is that when people are over indebted, the first thing they try to do is cut back on expenditures, and then after that they try and find long-term loans from families and friends, and then they go through the process of denial and selling of assets, and then it's like, what now? And at that stage, I would certainly suggest that you consider the formal debt counselling process. I'm Chief Executive of Credit Matters, and we've been in debt counselling since 2007. I don't even know how many years. I think it might be 16 years. So we've seen a fair amount of people come in and out of the process. There's been lots of happy stories, which is very exciting. Happy stories not because it's been easy, but that there's been success at the end of the process. So I certainly would, when it comes to interest rates, I would suggest that we are in for a rocky ride. I don't think that we can expect interest rates to plummet anytime soon. Everyone's talking inflation, which basically means that prices are going up higher and higher and higher. In a process of that, you have interest rates going up. And the reasons why the interest rates go up is because the government want people not to spend so much. They want prices not to go up so much, so they want to control inflation. They want to try control expenditure, government expenditure. They even want to control investments. They don't want the economy to get overheated. But there's also another possibility, and that's the possibility of deflation, where all of a sudden prices start to fall. So interest rates could go either way, and they do over periods of time. We always want the Goldilocks situation where the economy is not too hot, not too cold, but just right in the middle. But inevitably what happens is sometimes the regulators, not the regulators, but the financial controls get it wrong, and they either push the interest rates too high or they push them too low. But I think we've come to rely on low interest rates for too long, and I think it will probably be an extended period of higher interest rates, of higher real interest rates. So the difference between a real interest rates and a nominal interest rates is inflation. So if you have inflation running at 7.5% and interest rates running at 8.5%, and the nominal rate is 8.5%, but the real rate is only 1%, because you're actually really only paying 1% of interest because your purchasing power is dropping by 7.5% per month. I hope I got that right. Anyway, so interest rates at the moment are higher than inflation, as I understand. So we're paying real interest rates in South Africa, and there's real pain. And the other problem with interest is that even if interest rates are going up, people's salaries are not going up at the same time. Even if inflation is going up, salaries are not going up. So people are caught right now in a situation where they go and buy a packet of groceries, they go buy the packet of groceries, and the packet of groceries is getting smaller and smaller for the same price tag that they would have been paid previously. So this is a problem that we're experiencing, and it's a very real problem. I think that it's not manufactured. Mostly when the interest rates go up and the Reserve Bank decides to push them up, we kind of think, well, what does that matter? I mean, it's not really important. But it is important, and it's important because although we might not know what's going on in monetary policy committee meetings, the interest rates suddenly can go up on our bond or up on our car or whatever. So before you lose your house or your car, speak to a debt counsellor. Please, just don't hand it over. And as an attorney, let me advise you, if someone comes knocking on your door and says, you must give me the keys for your car, I've come to repossess it. Don't do it. You're not required to hand over the car. That's called the giving up of possession. If you give up possession, possession is 9/10 of the law. If you give it up, you can't get it back. So rather say to them, I refuse to give you over the car at the moment. Go away. I want to speak to a lawyer about this, or I want to speak to a debt counsellor about it. The problem, however, when it comes to those situations, people have often waited till there's a court order already. And if there's a court order already, it becomes extremely difficult to sort you out, because the court has already ordered that you hand back the vehicle. Having said that, sometimes the credit providers will go and ask for the return of goods prior to them getting a court order. That's what I'm saying is if someone knocks on your door and they're not an agent of the court, if they're a sheriff, it's different. But if they're not an agent of the court, if they say, I'm a collector and I'm here to collect your vehicle, then it's actually very dangerous to hand over that vehicle, because how do you know who they really are? I think it's better for you to lock your door and tell them, I'm going to phone a lawyer, I'm going to phone a debt counsellor, I want to see the documents, and I want to vet what's going on. And it's horrific, because if you lose your car, often many people can't make their lives work anymore. They can't get to work anymore in the mornings. They might find it difficult for two people to get to work. They might even find it difficult to get their kids around. There might be a huge big problem. The whole life can come to an end, or their whole financial life can come to an end. So before you lose your house or your car because interest rates have gone up, contact a debt counsellor. I'm a chief executive of Credit Matters, and we would certainly be able to give you a free assessment to see whether you are a good candidate for debt review. We'll explain to you exactly what it means to go on a debt review. And if debt review is a process that could work for you, we will give you the option. We'll tell you this is what it's going to mean, this is how much you pay, and at the end of the day, you may decide that you want to go with it or not. Anyway, my telephone number is in Cape Town. We've got a call centre which can also answer calls with RM Brown attorneys. But if you contact us at 021 202 1111, that's the attorney's office, and the call centre can also help you answer the calls. We also offer the process of getting off debt review through the attorney's office. Getting off debt review can be as difficult as getting onto debt review. There's always my good colleague at Advocate Jennison has just joined me.
You need to read your.
Where am I supposed to reading? I can't see them. Help me see them. Where am I seeing them?
And interact.
Where's the questions?
I've started asking the question. Oh,
I can't see it
already. Okay.
So maybe it's because, sorry if I haven't answered your question, I'm terrible. You have to phone me so we can talk. But you see, it tells me that if I do this, I can come and have a look here.
But you need to interact with your
look, all I'm seeing is joined, like, joined. I can see there's 2 people that are, there's 6 people joining us at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks for the chat. As I say, I'm still getting used to TikTok. I will get used to it one day and be a star in it. I might even become an influencer, unlikely. But it's been nice chatting to you. If you do have any advices, any questions for us, you can either call us on 021 202 1111, or you can email us at roger@creditmatters.co.za, or else you can catch up with us online. We've got a Facebook presence and we've got a TikTok presence, as you can see, and we will certainly be here to answer your questions about interest rates and all the rest. When it comes to getting off debt review, as I said, it's quite difficult to do so. Coming off debt review is a process in itself. And I certainly would not pay anyone, and I reiterate this, do not pay anyone promising to get you off. If someone's saying, give me 600 Rand and I'll get you off debt review within 24 hours, the chances are they are a liar and a cheat and a scammer. Do not get caught out by those type of people, because those kind of people probably will take your 600 Rand and you will not be able to contact them and you won't be able to know where your money's gone. So if you're wanting to come out of debt review, what I would suggest, you need to deal with your debt counsellor firstly. Coming off debt review is something that debt counsellors do. It is not something that any old good person who wants to help you can do. So normally it's a process. It's a process whereby you have to change your status with the court. So you have to go through, it's actually not the status, but your debt counselling status, let's put it that way. So it's a magistrate's court application that's got to be bought, and mostly it's about having a look at your financial positioning and seeing whether you're no longer a candidate for debt review. The easiest way to get out of debt review is actually to pay your money every month and get a clearance certificate. The way the clearance certificates are issued, they're issued at the end of the process when you've got to a stage where all your debts have been paid down. When that happens, then your debts are now paid down, and what will happen then is that you'll get a notice from the bank saying that a letter from the bank saying that you no longer owe them the money in terms of the obligations that were set out. And once that happens, then you you can contact your debt counsellor, and your debt counsellor will then be able to bring an application, or be able to issue a clearance certificate. Sorry, I'm missing that. So you get a clearance certificate when you come up to the end of debt counselling. That's great. If you are able to pay your debts and you are in a debt review, so you no longer feel that you're a candidate for debt review, then you can contact attorneys like ourselves, RM Brown, that's RM Brown Attorneys, and we can then bring a formal application to the court to look at your financial position and to get you off debt review. So we can do that for you. We will advise you on whether it's possible. We're not going to take your money and promise you the earth. If we can see that there's no possibility of you coming off debt review, we will advise you accordingly. But certainly, if there is a possibility of coming through debt review, remember, no one wants to be on a debt review longer than they need to be. The credit providers don't want you to be on a debt review if you're not a candidate for debt review any longer. And certainly they want you back in the queue of being a rehabilitated spender or rehabilitated borrower. So they want you to be standing back on the lines to buy stuff, and if needs be, they also want to be able to grant you future credit. So I think people that come on a debt review have often shown themselves to be the best kind of people when it comes to credit, because they don't run away from their obligations, but instead will they will instead pay their obligations, and will then be in a process where they can actually retake their positions as economically active spenders out there, and candidates to take on new credit. Anyway, I would like to just thank you for coming by today. As I say, my name is Roger Brown. I am a debt counsellor and an attorney. Our telephone numbers for the legal practice is 021 202 1111. That's 021 202 1111. And the debt counselling company is 021 202 1100. And the debt counselling company is Credit Matters, and the legal practice is RM Brown Attorneys, and I am RM Brown of RM Brown Attorneys. Anyway, I hope you have learned some things. If you have got any questions about interest rates, I have battled to keep up with the number of people following us, and the questions I haven't seen them all that well, so maybe I haven't been able to answer them. But you can certainly email me, roger@creditmatters.co.za or roger@rmbrown.co.za. And if I can't get through it because of the volumes, which we might experience, I will certainly get someone who is more than qualified to look at the questions and then help you with your debt-related issue. In closing, I just remind you is do not put your head in the sand when someone comes and says that they're about to take judgment against you. Remember, once judgment's been taken, they can certainly mess you up longer than any debt counselling process will mess you up. Because you can be rehabilitated out of debt review once you've paid your debt, but if you've got a judgment against your name, that's going to stick around forever. So I certainly, then you've got to bring a formal application to get the judgment off your name, and that's also a lengthy and expensive process. So when people issue a Section 29 notice saying that they're about to proceed to court, I would suggest that you contact your friendly debt counsellor immediately, and ask them if they can't, if you're not going to be a candidate to go into debt review. It's a process which works. We've seen thousands of South Africans come out of debt review through Credit Matters, and it's a process which is regulated by the courts, as regulated by the National Credit Act, and it's an industry that's been around for over 16 years, so it can be trusted, and it's the kind of structure that people do need in order to make sure that the harassing telephone calls can stop, and that we can move on with your life without having the stress of having people knock on your door and harass you all the time for debts that you own. So that will be me for today. I hope you have found this TikTok live chat, to be worth watching us. And I look forward to joining you again sometime. And follow us and make sure that you tell your mates about Credit Matters, that we can help you get out of debt review. Have a good day.